Hey, I believe we should be live right now. I think so. I hope we are live. So I'm just going to check in the comments and see if um, anybody has written a comment and kind of confirming that we're live. I swear to God, this live things, right? There's always something going on.
Interesting.
There's always something happening when you're trying to go live. See, can somebody please just write in the comments and let us know that we're live, please? Okay, I've just checked. I'm checking it up right now on my iPad, and we are live. Okay.
Oh, beautiful.
Yes, we are. We are live. Okay, so first of all, thank you so much for being patient with us. We had a little technical glitch. And speak of threat with diversity, my guest today is April Hernandez Castillo. I practiced that Castillo part.
I love it. You did great.
Thank you. And she is a Hollywood actress and well known for her role in Freedom Writers as Eva Benitez. And as a show lover myself, I've enjoyed watching April on so many shows. I enjoyed watching Person of Interest, on the following Dexter, Black Box, and so many shows you really definitely have to check out. And she's a speaker. She has graced so many stages in the United States of America and even the TEDx stage. And she's an author. Just recently wrote a second book, her memoir, Embracing Me, a book that will educate you. This will break you and embrace you at the same time. And I don't want to steal her thunder. Without further ado, April, please introduce yourself.
Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. For me, it is morning, and so thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Would you like to say a few words about yourself, like to your person?
Oh yes, I'm sorry, I was distracted because my daughter is getting ready for daycare, so she was talking to me. Yeah, I have been acting for over about close to 20 years. My goodness, I feel really old when I say that. And I wrote, my book Embracing Me last year, and so we recently published it, and it's been amazing to see how it's impacting lives. All the things that you hope that it will do when you're writing it or when you're pouring your heart out. And so I've just been receiving so many messages. And right now I'm currently working on the show The Prodigal Son, which is on Fox. Not
Mm-hmm.
sure if it's all over the place yet, but that is what I am up to. I'm a mom of two girls and a wife to an amazing husband of
Oh,
20 years. This year we make 20 years.
wow, wow. Ah, beautiful, amazing. And I would just like to dive into the first part of our conversation. You're going to talk to us about authenticity,
Hmm.
leaning into that what makes us who we are. And the more you get to know April and understand her work and what she does, she's all about transparency and take it away.
Yes, it's one of those things where we live in a culture now where we hear the word authenticity often, but I'm always questioning, can we really be authentic? Because if I'm authentic, what if my authenticity offends someone? What if my authenticity makes someone uncomfortable? So I always find it interesting of how do we really tell people to be authentic and being themselves when maybe sometimes being yourself might not always go with the flow of the world, which sometimes I always feel like the black sheep,
Mm-hmm.
because the way I think, the way I feel, and I'm always trying to be empathetic. So I
Mm-hmm.
think one of the ways in being authentic is also keeping that empathy, right? In like your back pocket of understanding this is my authentic self, but I have to also understand that it may not be what the world likes, but that doesn't mean that I can't still just try my best to put myself out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a scary thing when you want to be authentic. But once again, what does that really look like for you
Mm-hmm.
in the different settings? Because if you think about it, can I really be authentic in the workspace? In my corporate, right? Can who am I when I'm at home with my kids? Can I still be that person at work? And I think that's where people struggle, because they want to be their authentic selves, but obviously because of corporations and laws and all of this stuff, you sometimes feel like you can't. So that's I don't really have like the number one answer, but I do know that it is important to remain yourself. It is important because once you begin not being yourself, or not being able to feel good in your own skin, that's when
Mm-hmm.
it becomes uncomfortable, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely, it makes a lot of sense, and especially today in today's society, which is inundated with too many brands, authenticity has never been so relevant like it is today, right? And
Right.
I do believe it's actually that point in time when you stop being what you think or what you believe you should be, but you really start being you, you
Right.
know? And to kind of package the business world, um, as leaders, we want our people to be authentic, right? We want our people to open up to us and really tell us what is it that drives them, what it is that motivates them, so that we can be able to lead them better and be better leaders for them. But we're not really being role models. We're not really modeling that. And I know you just say that. I know you say that you don't really have the answer to that, but I know you've done a lot of work over the years about transparency, and that's what your TEDx talk is all about,
Right.
right? Transparency and authenticity. So throughout your whole journey, do you have like one, two, three tips that you can give our audience where you say, hey, it's a journey, but this is a great place to start?
Oh yes, I mean there is a difference. Sorry, mind. Okay, this is mommy. Yes. Okay. uh, Mommy life, right?
I
Mompreneur.
know.
So there is a difference between transparency and authenticity. I do believe that you can be authentic without having to be transparent. So what does that mean? When you are completely transparent, the way that I have been able to just live my life, you are 100% unafraid to be yourself, to tell people your life story without feeling ashamed, without
Mm-hmm.
feeling as if, you really care about what everyone thinks about what you've been through. That takes a lot of courage. That takes a lot of bravery to just stand and saying, this is who I am. If you ask me how I'm doing and I tell you that I am not well, that is me being living in my transparency, because I understand how hard it is to constantly not speak my truth.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many people in this world that if you ever see them and you ask, how are you? And they're like, I'm great. But they just had bouts of suicidal thoughts. They just, they're dealing with depression. They're dealing with, you know, uh, immense anxiety. You wonder if people really said how they feel, and not like a whole paragraph, but just say, I'm not well. Have a good day. You just don't have to fake it, right? Like we live in a world where everyone has to like have this filter. And the reason why I was becoming transparent, to give a backstory,
Mm-hmm.
I in my first pregnancy, I suffered severe postpartum,
Mm-hmm.
and I was drowning in depression. I was drowning in having to be this perfect mother when I wasn't feeling like that. I wasn't feeling like I was this super mom. And so I started going to therapy, and my therapist said, well, what do you feel? And I was like, I'm angry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of pissed off. I'm angry. I'm angry that no one told me how hard it would be. I'm angry that no one's told me that there would be times that I would feel so depressed. No one sat me down to really go over if you have postpartum, because when a mother gets pregnant, you're never thinking that you're not going to connect to your child, right? You're assuming, because what Hollywood has created, you see all these movies, Instagram, you see all of these amazing photos, but you realize that there is a darkness to it that most
Mhm.
women don't talk about. And my therapist said, well, you need to start speaking your truth. And I did. So if someone asked me how I was feeling and if I was in a really bad bout of depression, girl, I would just be like, motherhood, I hate it. God bless you. And from there, I just decided to live my life in the most transparent way. So I do that with
Mhm.
my children. I do that with whoever. I'll do it with my pastor. If I'm feeling great that day, I tell him. If I'm not, then I call him. So that's what being transparent is for me.
Mhm.
And also saying, I don't always have to tell everyone my deepest thing that I'm experiencing. I
Mhm.
know how much to gauge it, how much I can say and how much I'm willing to give, because I also believe that you do need to be very careful in what you share.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a difference between being vulnerable and broadcasting, right?
Right. Correct. Correct. Yes. Right. I can be vulnerable, but I'm not going to allow you to push me around. There's a difference of vulnerability, and there's a difference of saying, yeah, you're not going to bully me. You're not going to use this as a
Mm-hmm.
way to feel less as a person. But I also know that I can't live a lie.
Absolutely.
And I think especially women, I think women just go through that, right? When we become mothers, it's like everything changes. And I'm not trying to discredit the men that they don't have their own experiences, because I do believe that men have their own experiences when a baby comes in. They go through their own thing, but I'm a woman, I'm a mother. I'm speaking from my own of
Mhm.
there are so many changes that no one talks about.
Absolutely. I mean, in my own experience, we know it was like you go from one minute, you have like I used to have an iPad or a laptop in my bag, right? And all of a sudden I had a bunny in my handbag, It's like, oh my God, what happened to me? I got a bunny and diaper. So
Right, right, right.
it's the growth. It's the growth that comes with it as well.
Yes, it is. And so just being authentic, it's one of those of saying, number one, it's being comfortable in your skin. It's being comfortable in your skin.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do we do that when we live in a world where everything is filtered, where everything, you literally scroll for a half hour and you compare your life
Mm-hmm.
to people who you have no idea what's going on behind that camera,
Mm-hmm.
behind that lens. And so I always say, number one, just checking in with you.
Yeah.
What matters to you? What are your morals? What are your standards? What are your values? And
Mm-hmm.
those are the things that gets me through my life. And that allows me to always be authentic. People always think, "Oh, April, you're so real." I'm like, I guess
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not willing to fold in a world where so many things can make you fold.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I
So
think
what?
we spoke about
Sorry.
this. Like, yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to kind of wrap up what you've said up until now. So you're talking about the courage, having the courage to really speak the truth and to be okay just being you, even when
Correct.
the whole world is going the other direction, to just really kind of be centered in that moment in just your realness, right? And also to check in with your values. So what am I doing today? Is it in alignment with my values, right? With that, what I believe in or what I want to pass on to my children and my family as well. Great.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Everyone has their own journey towards authenticity. I think it's just defining what that really means for you, what's important to you, what
Mm-hmm.
you're willing to do and not do.
Absolutely. And to remember that authenticity, or the point when you're really vulnerable, that is the place for a lot of things, because that is when you start communicating. And I mean, I talk a lot about leadership, so I'm always going to spin it to the leadership part. As leaders, it's the moment when you're able to really tap into that vulnerable space. It's when you
Correct.
are able to make real connections with your team. And the moment you start connecting with the people that you serve, that's when it happens, because people, they really, they see you, they emulate what your attributes, your role model, and you create that team cohesion that lacks in a lot of teams, which of course, if you follow the thread going moving forward, more productivity, innovation, creativity, and all that, and the business is uh-huh.
I agree. I agree. As leaders, we assume if we remain just separated from our teams, if
Mm-hmm.
we don't show vulnerability, if we don't show that we can be empathetic, we assume that's going to build people up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for different, if you are in the Marines, that might not always work because you need these people to have a different mindset. But
Mm-hmm.
obviously, if you're in a corporation and you're building, you have there people connect to vulnerability like that. Like, oh wow, I can talk to this person, and not only are they leading me, but they're making me feel as if my voice matters. They're making me feel included and saying, as a leader, I have a vision. This is the vision for the team, but I also want you to develop your own. I
Mm-hmm.
want you to lead a smaller team, and I'm going to give you the tools that are necessary to do this. Like, that's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone wants to feel as if, number one, they've been seen
Yeah.
by a leader. That's the number one thing. And if you think about a person that you admire, someone who is like a celebrity or just someone in a higher level, the moment that they see you, you're just
Yeah.
you're oh my gosh, they looked at me, they heard my voice,
Yeah.
they said great idea, kid. And you walk away thinking, wow.
Yeah.
And that's just that simple act of a leader seeing someone builds builds so much character, which I really, really love.
And trust as well. And speak of voice, you're talking about making you feel like your voice has been heard. You can really nicely ushered us into the next part of this conversation, our voice, and our voice, our fingerprint. Reading your book, I love it. I love that book. I mean, it came in the afternoon, and I remember I just took her daughter, I gave her to my husband, and I never left the office until I was done. I just, it was a one
Wow.
time read. It was a one time read. And you talk a lot about your voice being silenced and how you found it finally, in the memoir. And could you please speak a little into that? How do you define voice, and what does that really, really mean to find your voice?
Great question. I Last night I was watching I don't know if Tina Turner. Do you know who Tina Turner is?
Uh,
I just want to make sure. That's the question we have to ask these days to people. Be like, do you know? Because I don't know millennials. I don't know how old you are. I feel so old. So I was watching her. I'm a huge. I don't get starstruck. I don't. But there
mhm.
are certain people that I think if I was to see them, meet them, I just would cry and just totally fan out. And so I was watching her documentary that's on HBO right now. And I am in awe of this woman. She is a hero because she survived this abusive relationship with Ike, her first husband.
Mhm.
Things that we can't even imagine. Even though there was a movie, even though she's spoken about it, and it's interesting because you see her on stage, this powerhouse that when she sings, you feel like her body is just going, like she sings from her gut, what we say in the arts, right? She sings from her gut, she sings from her soul, and yet her voice was so silenced, because her husband constantly ripped her apart in a sense of physically, emotionally, mentally. And so as much as she was a powerhouse and she was singing on stage,
Mm-hmm.
she never had the power to speak up. She
Mm-hmm.
never had this ability to talk back to him until she discovered Buddhism, until that thing that she found that just said, you know what, it's either now or never. And I always find it powerful because when you think of leaders, you assume that they have just everything figured out, right? That they are the most powerful people, and yet so many people suffer in silence. So I was in a very unhealthy, abusive relationship from the age of about 16 to close to 20. And my voice was silenced. That's what abuse does. It and what I say in the book is that it kills dreams. It kills that fighter in you. I was a fighter. I'm New York City. I grew up with a very tough mom, as you know, but to have someone make a choice to violate you,
Mm-hmm.
and then you are confused because you don't understand why this is happening. You just say, I love this person and I think that they love me, but I sort of want to continue. But then you begin to lose everything about yourself. So that's for me what losing my voice felt like. It wasn't just the audible, like what you hear right now, but
Mm-hmm.
it was the dreams, my identity, what I stood for. I had to fight
Mm-hmm.
really hard to gain that back. So watching Tina Turner, I was going through so many emotions because I kept looking at my husband and I'm like you don't understand, to see this woman sing and then to go home and endure hell physically. I can't even imagine the mental just damage that was done to her. And so then
Mm-hmm.
you're in Hollywood and everyone is asking. So that was to me a very defining moment, like when my voice was taken away. Now, when did I discover it? It just happened when I was at the bottom. I was at the bottom. And for me, I said it's either I will continue this way or I will be 6 feet under. That's how intense it became for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, no, I won't allow anyone to do that. Other than like if it's God's will, but I didn't really believe that was God's will. I'm like, I really think you created me to do something greater. So when I left that situation, I started to gain my identity. So for me, voice is like a fingerprint, with you and I were talking about. It's a fingerprint that all of us have it. You can have an identical twin, and yet you have your own fingerprint, which I find
Mm-hmm.
fascinating. I'm fascinated that we all have our own fingerprint, but really that just means like who you are as an individual in this place that we call the world, that we all have this purpose, this journey, how you use
Mm-hmm.
your voice, whether you have an audible voice, but it's really like, what do you believe in? What do you stand for? What don't you stand for? And these are the elements that to me, that in my journey of writing and becoming an author and being a survivor, that encompasses like what someone's voice means and how important that when we speak up, and I hope that gave a good definition. I really just wanted to drive that home. The things that you believe in, the things that you don't believe in, the things that you stand for and don't stand for, those are the things that make up your voice.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I know I've read your book and we've both listening to you again. It's always, that April, how can you do this to me all the time? So what I'm getting is the voice. It's way deeper than this physical thing that we used to speak. It is that thing that happens before the words and the thoughts. I mean, always this, that inspiration, that thing that comes from deep within you, and then you start processing it with your thoughts and your words.
Correct.
So it's that one that cannot be taken away from you, no matter what. Wow.
Right. Right.
Good.
It's
So good.
to me, it's your soul, right? It's your spirit. That's what
Mm-hmm.
makes up your voice. It's that thing that only you hear and no
Yeah.
one else does. It's that thing that only you feel. And I'm not saying other people don't feel it, but it's that internal dialogue
Mm-hmm.
constantly of what you're telling yourself. And so when I think of voice, I just always tap into that and saying, what is my voice? What is my gut? What is my soul telling me? How do I begin to trust that
Mm-hmm.
and um not allow it to be silenced or not allow it to be devalued? That's very
Mm-hmm.
important.
Mm-hmm. And as leaders, I believe when you are in a leading position, your people that you serve, we have to really get into the habit of nurturing those qualities that help people define and get through to their voice. We're talking about nurturing those qualities that create independence in people, right? That empower people. Talking about qualities that give them the courage to speak their truths and all that. Oh, this is really good. This
Yeah.
is really, really
I mean,
good.
it takes a lot of confidence to have as a leader to be
Mm-hmm.
able to develop the people who are working very hard for the company, because sometimes if you're very insecure and if you give someone, if you're helping someone develop their voice, maybe you might feel afraid that they might take over your position or they might leave the company and start their own. But it's sort of the thing of, wow, we should feel good when we create a team that they go off and they branch or they just develop product that really serves the company, because it can't just all come from us. Eventually it's like raising a child. It's the same dynamic, right? You're a mom now, you raise your child and hope, and you think like, okay, have I done the job? Have I given them all the tools that they need to develop their voice? And
Mm-hmm.
will they land on their feet? There takes that moment of saying, I have to let you go, sort of, so you can land on
Mm-hmm.
your feet, because I can't always be there. It's definitely a confidence thing that you need to have in being okay, right? It's that student teacher dynamic.
Wow, wow. Right. Before we move over, we just like to really honor the people that are right. Main content is going up, April. So I'm just gonna, pull up 2, 3 comments and see what is talking about, what they're talking about. Okay, so we have here we got Susan saying great definitions and mindset. Yeah, summary, Natalie. Keep on cross-checking what you do with your values. I would say for inner scorecard being stronger inside than the outside. Wow,
Wow, amazing.
amazing. Fatim says authenticity encourages commitment. Absolutely, absolutely. And then
So funny. That's just the way, because you ever have a conversation and you're like, oh, do you know? You don't know. Okay, Google that. Like, thank God for Google. You're just at the place where you're like, just, you don't know it, just Google it right now. So that way you have an idea. But I wanted to quickly just say that great leaders multiply themselves.
yeah,
great leaders and great leaderships, like you multiply yourself. If you're doing that great work, if you're doing the work that you're supposed to do in the leadership role, then you want to multiply yourself. You want to see people with a little bit of your identity in that in saying like, oh, I learned this, or this is how we operate. This is the
Mm-hmm.
culture that we have developed because of the great leadership that I've had. And I truly believe great leadership is our parents, right? Parenting is you want to know if you've been a good leader, lead your children. And do they carry on, right, some of the things that you have created in your household? And that's a great way to gauge, you know.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So two comments, and then we can move on to the third and last section of our live today. Sarah, thank you for sharing your personal experience, April. And we got LinkedIn user who's saying it's your soul, it's your spirit, your voice. Perfect, perfectly. Perfect. Okay, so we're really in time. And the last part of our conversation today is going to be thriving community. And to talk about this, I would really like to take you back to it, right. That was a pick. That was, oh my God. I recently rewatched the movie, and I will get so emotional when I watch that movie, because there is so much real and so much truth in that movie. I mean, it was done 9 years ago, but the songs that were in the movie are still very relevant today. And so so talk to us a little bit about community. What does that mean to you, and how what do you mean about what community thriving and healing happens in community? So
So I just want to make sure if someone has not watched Freedom Riders, I do know I've received so many messages around the world. So I know people can watch the movie. We have so many lovely people who are international right now. So if you have not watched the movie, quickly, Freedom Riders is about a teacher called Erin Gruelle. She worked in a school of 150 students. It's that film, that educational film where these students weren't supposed to make it because no one believed in them. She came in and she had this agenda of saying, I will make sure that I don't fail these kids like everyone else has. And she gave them and the ability to discover their voice. That's, if you're talking about discovering the voice, if you watch the movie, please, 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 please go watch this film. It's powerful how she does it, and
mm-hmm,
it because she decided, okay, I'm not going to talk, I'm going to listen. So let me listen instead of us having an agenda. So as leaders, if you're talking about leadership, we always have this mission, but how do we just not always speak, but just listen to the people who are
mm-hmm,
serving you? Because sometimes their ideas are way better than ours, right? We have like the whole thing because we have to. That is our job. But when we listen, we can discover so many things. And so she listened to these kids who were in pain, who were suffering, who were broken, who had trust issues, who were homeless, who were in gangs. And she saw them as human beings, and it took a long time. It took a lot of work. It took a lot of trust.
mm-hmm,
But as you watch the film, you begin to see everyone's walls breaking down. You see them coming down. And, there's a part in the movie called A Toast for Change. And some of the kids who, you've never thought ever said anything, they finally speak. And Natalie, that's like, I don't know what part of the movie gets you, but that part of the movie, when I hear the kid speaking about being homeless and not having anywhere to go, and his mom, it breaks my heart, because that is an actual diary.
mm-hmm.
That is an
The
actual,
letter.
yes, that's an actual verbatim. Like
Mm-hmm,
and to see a kid who probably would never get the opportunity to speak because no one really
mm-hmm,
cares, in that sense of, at that moment, she created that. And that's when I'm talking about healing. We heal when we feel safe. That's the number one thing. We heal when we feel safe, when we feel that we can be in a place where it's not about not judging, but it's more about, can I stand with you? Can I listen to you? Can I walk with you when things are not always great?
Mm-hmm.
Because then I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to be in your presence. I'm not afraid to hear your truth, but saying, here are some of the things that we can do. Encouraging one another, listening. And that movie captures it perfectly. And I tell teachers all the time, and I tell parents all the time, I'm like, you want your kids to trust you? You need to shut up. You need to stop talking. You
Mm-hmm.
need to listen. And that's like the hardest thing for us to do sometimes, is to listen. But that's where
Mm-hmm.
healing begins, in listening.
Uh, because when we listen, what we basically do is get inside, right? And as a parent, as a leader, without insight, not leading anybody, you're absolutely not leading anyone. So,
Right.
and there's something so powerful about this movie. It kind of breaks down little what that I do, because what I normally do is I normally go in three sections: empowerment, execution, and leveraging, right? So when you talk about empowerment, what Mrs. G, she empowered every single person, right? She made them feel valued, and she gave the platform, right? And the moment they were empowered, then she created an environment where everybody felt psychologically safe enough to let the walls down. And that
Correct.
is one very vital thing when it comes to leadership in big organizations. It really doesn't matter. It's just like when you notice a one-man job in business, when you're really dealing with employees and you got a team and people that are working for you, and you need to be able to create environments where these people can thrive, where they feel psychologically safe.
Right.
You know,
Hmm.
where the kind of the culture is tolerated. That's the word I was looking for. Is tolerated. And also, and in that moment, you realize that people start to really unfold. People really start to get very creative, and you start seeing sides of people that you didn't see. Like,
Correct.
for instance,
Yeah.
right? So great. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's definitely, and listen, it's there's so many ways to be a leader, right? There's so many. There's people who are just very militant. There are people who are just, they want to add fun. They're very project driven, right? It's about, let's get this job done. But we can't forget that there's a human side. There are humans working for you. There are people
Mm-hmm.
who are dealing with things that you will never know. And a leader is not a doctor or therapist, right? Sometimes that's not their job, but you can create that space. You can create that space of, maybe where I live feels like hell, but when I come to work, I can just thrive. I can feel good. And that's what Erin Gruel did. That's why I think she's a phenomenal leader. That's why I think she's someone who, her ability and what she created is really something to model. Because it's one of those things where you saw the kids, you saw the hell that they were living.
Mm-hmm.
And yet when they came to this class, they felt hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
If you as a leader are not operating from a place that you are igniting and wanting your team to feel hopeful, that is a huge problem. Because we live in a world right now where I don't care how you're, like, we need hope. I need to feel as if my manager, my executive, that they are making me feel that we have been through hell, but this too shall pass, and there's hope, and we're gonna move forward as a team.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's one of the most important things that a leader should have,
Mm-hmm.
instilling hope. Because when I feel hopeful, I can wake up and I can do my job better. Even just having that, right? Even just having a little
Absolutely.
bit of hope. You're saying, when I come here, I feel appreciated. And when people feel appreciated, they work even harder.
Absolutely. It's actually as simple as that, right? It
It's
is
that
as simple as
simple.
that.
When you feel appreciated, you don't feel as if I'm working with someone who operates from a place of power and control. That I understand that there's a mission that needs to be completed when we are here from the X amount of hours. But in between, just knowing that, uh, a simple good morning and thank you and please goes so long.
Yeah,
It goes so far.
absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. Please. I appreciate your hard work. So that way, if you are reprimanded or someone needs to tell you something, that you can finally hear it. And that's what happened with Freedom Riders. They were able to finally hear what Mrs. G, Erin Gruel, was trying to say from the beginning, but it was a lot of work.
And that kind of takes me to this particular part in the movie. I mean, the first time she walks to the house, she's like, "Hey, you go respect me, right?" And they go like, "Hey, I'm not respecting you because I don't know you." The day this kid goes like and says, "Hey, mom," and then goes like, "Hey, I'm not your mom." I was like, "No, that is not respect because she earned it."
Correct. Yeah. I mean, kids, students are so different these days. It is not it's about, let's establish trust slowly. Let us work together. I cannot operate. I mean, there is an authority that you need as a leader. I truly believe that there's an authority that you need, that is why people are attracted to you in the leadership role that you're in. There is something where, no matter what the politics are, when I look at a Barack Obama, right, someone who I may not always agree on on how he did things, but to the core of who he is, his ability to empathize, his ability to just feel like I could have a real conversation with President Obama, just makes me feel like, okay, once again, I'm seen and he'll hear me. But wow, what he's such a different kind of leader. Now, once again, I'm not trying to be political. I'm just picking out someone who you talk about, like, going high when they go low. They are the kings and queens of that. But I really think that truly separates you from everyone else. And that's what Erin Gruel did. She was able to just say, it's not about me, it's about them. And if I get them to see themselves, then I've done the work. I've done the job that I was supposed to do.
Absolutely. Wow. Beautifully put, my darlings. I'm just jump in the comment section, just to honor people and see what
Of
they're saying.
course.
Jacob says this resonates so much with me. And Paul, I'm so sorry if I've messed up the pronunciation. Powerful, we heal when we say. And then, Jacob says this resonates so much. And then I have a little user who says, I watched the movie several times. I also read the book in English and German. And every time I got new learnings, it empowers me always. Thank you. Wow, that is really amazing. Then we got Mary. 5 magic words. One of the things we learned from a very early on, funny enough. The thank you, please, and what you said before. So, thank you. Thanks so much for the comments and for really engaging with the conversation. And if I'm just going to wrap it all up, we talked about authenticity, always checking in with your values and knowing, does this really align with my core self? Who am I? Really stopping to be what you think people expect you to be, and
Correct.
just really be you. And then when we talked about the power of voice, it's really much more than this thing that we used to speak, right? It's your soul, it's your fingerprint, one thing that sets you apart. And nobody can take away your voice. No one. I love that. The fact that no one can take away our voices. And then when we talk about community, um, the power of making people feel seen, valued, and giving them hope to move forward.
Mm-hmm. Powerful.
If your words, my darling, these are your words. I am so that you share them with us. And do you have, I mean, closing off, 44 minutes. I can't believe it's been 44 minutes. Do you have any last three tips to my audience and your audience as we almost close up?
Yes, absolutely. Number one, oh, dream in color. Dream in color.
Love it. I love
Dream in color. What does that mean? That means just whatever color that is for you. We live and we have lived through one of the toughest moments globally. And some of us have probably felt like, I don't know how to dream. I don't know how to dream again because I'm still scared. And number one, I when we dream, there's something that happens. Yes, there's strategy. There's all these things that go with it. But dream like a child. Dream in color. Take that moment to just think about the wildest dreams that you have, and write them down, and just allow your mind to just have fun. We forget to have fun. We forget to just breathe. We forget to just be. And so the number one thing I always tell my daughter, when she's drawing, I'm like, or when she's dreaming, I say, just dream in color. Think about sunsets, and when the sun is coming up, and what that looks like. That's how your dream should look like and make you feel. Number two, live boldly. Live boldly. The
it.
world is living boldly, and yet some of us are terrified to live boldly, and only you can define what that is for you. But for me, living boldly is whatever dream that I have. I'm like, okay, how do I make this come? How do I make this happen? How was I able to write a book? And it was because I was willing to live boldly during a time where everything else felt chaotic. And my third one is, love yourself. Love yourself. And if you can't love yourself, begin to at least like yourself. Because I do know personally, there are times in my life that it was hard for me to love myself. But if I was able to like who I was becoming, eventually I was like, okay, I can love me. And I know that these are not the typical, like, oh, these, but I wanted to give the audience something completely different. But if you can't love yourself, if you're not fully there, I completely get it. But if you can like yourself once in a blue moon, if you can look in the mirror and say, what do I like about me? That will help your confidence. That will help you become a better leader. That will help you become and just strive in being a better human being, because that's all of us want. And those are my three takeaways, right? Dream in color, live boldly. And if you love yourself even more. If you can't love yourself, then at least like who you are becoming, and eventually it would lead into love.
Wow. Wow. Powerful. Oh, so if you're listening, I really want you to do one thing. I need you to go and get this book, Embrace Me. I really need to go. I know, Amazon, whatever you want to, get this book. This book will educate you. This is one book is going to force you to really reflect so much on your own life, and it embraces you. That's the beauty. April, she will break you apart, but she will be able to dive deep.
That's a It sounds so violent, right? It
And
sounds so violent. Book is violent, but you should totally buy it. No.
no, it is a recommend. So, and I'm so honored to actually have this time with you. It's been a great honor to share this with you. And I look forward to more conversations. If you're connected, reach out to her on LinkedIn. She's quite new on LinkedIn, but reach out to her. We're trying to create. And on LinkedIn, you will find out ways on how you can connect with her on the website, on Instagram, and we'll figure out how to connect with her as well. And thank you so much for tuning in. And yeah, bye.
Bye. Thank you.